Hello, hello, hello. Welcome everyone to the Watch and Talk podcast. My name is Ian. I'm your host, and today we're going to be talking about mainly the last four games that the Pistons have played and how they've been, and the NBA Cup. So if that sounds good to you, let's get straight into the news. Since we have last talked, the Pistons have played four games, and those four games have been against the Memphis Grizzlies, the Indiana Pacers, the Philadelphia 76ers, and finally the Milwaukee Bucks. In that time frame, the Pistons have gone 1-3 and have lost three really bad games. Like, it's been pretty rough. Against the Memphis Grizzlies, we lost by 20, falling 111 to 131. We had some players who looked good, like Marcus Sasser had 22 points, or Simon Fontecchio, who also had 18. But outside of that, there was no real bright spots in this game. You can look over to maybe Jalen Duren, but only had 6 points and 7 rebounds. Jaden Ivey had 17 points, but only 1 assist. And when you're the point guard of the team, that's not really going to work out. Unfortunately, Malik Beasley also had a rough day, only scoring 10 points on not great efficiency. And overall, I mean, you could tell that we were missing Cade in this game, and that's really, really what hurt us. I mean, no Cade Cunningham is just a detriment to this team. We look so bad. We look lost. The offense can't really run. And overall, I mean, it's just hard to watch. Luckily for us, things started to look better when we had Cade come back against the Indiana Pacers that Friday night. And this was an NBA Cup game. We were 2-0 at the time. He comes back and he has a really good game. 24 points, 11 assists, 6 rebounds, and this team looked great. Malik Beasley dropped 25, Jaden Ivey dropped 24, Jalen Duren had a double-double with 12 boards and 14 points. You also had Tobias Harris, who had 16 points, and Tim Hardaway Jr. with 10. I mean, we looked really, really good. We ended up winning this game 130 to 106, and you could tell that with Cade Cunningham, this offense looks so much better, and you can feel the spark that he brings when it comes to being a playmaker, and it is super nice to see and super nice to watch, but it still shows how much work we have to do off the bench and off the depth and how just inconsistent, really, our guys are without him. It's really hard to watch. And another just great example of how hard it is to watch this team without Cade Cunningham was us against the Philadelphia 76ers. Unfortunately, they decided that the Pistons did not want to play him because we had an NBA Cup game. We were 3-0 at the time and had a chance of making the NBA Cup playoffs. So he sat against the 76ers, just kind of fully heal up. He still wasn't feeling great. And we got killed 111 to 96. And again, I mean, this team just didn't look great. Jaden Ivey, 15 points, but the efficiency wasn't there. Malik Beasley showed up with 19 points, 4 assists, and 6 rebounds, but I mean, if we don't win, does it really matter? No one else shows up here either. You had Wendell Moore, who was our fourth player in double digits, and for anyone who doesn't know who Wendell Moore is, he's like our ninth, 10th guy in the rotation. I mean, so when he's having a better day than a starter, Tim Hardaway Jr., who had 0 points, 0 assists, and 0 rebounds, I mean, it's hard to win games. He had a better day than Tobias Harris, 4 points, 2 assists, and 7 rebounds, or Jalen Duren, who had 0 rebounds, mind you, as a center. I mean, we just look lost. It is so, so frustrating. Um, I think the main takeaways from those two games going into Tuesday night against the Bucks were we were really, really hoping that since Cade was back, the offense would look better and then we could get some defensive stops. Unfortunately, however, we go into Tuesday night. We know it's like a playoff game. We know that this is the most success that the Pistons have seen if we go to the NBA Cup playoffs in the last 4 or 5 years. I mean, we're not even talking about the actual playoff, guys. We're talking about just the NBA Cup. It's only been around for 2 years, but I mean, it definitely is a cool thing to see. It kind of gives teams who maybe don't have a chance in the regular season or playoffs to shine and win something, but unfortunately, the Pistons just could not quite get it done. We lost 107 to 128 with the Bucks, and a few things I do want to say now is the refs were horrible tonight. Giannis had so many calls, it was insane. Like, every time they tried to defend Giannis, he got to the free throw line. That's another reason we lost this game. I just want to point that out. They shot 75% from three. I think it was they went 18 for 26 from three. And anytime you're giving up 70% of your three-pointers, you're not going to win those games. And along with that, I mean, there were some crazy good players. Like, you had Damian Lillard, who's amazing, also shot 27. Giannis had 28. Bobby Portis Jr. off the bench came up with 14. You had Gary Trent Jr. with 27 minutes and 16 points. And you had guys who you didn't really expect, but they were just popping off, like AJ Green, who had 11 points. Torian Prince, 14 points on 3 for 3 shooting from three. Absolutely lights out. And this team, even with Cade Cunningham, I know that I said the win, we look a lot better offensively, but defensively, we have no clue how to cover the three. It's really bad. Every single game, if you go back through our entire season, I would be willing to bet. I don't have the stats pulled up on me, but I'm like 90% sure that teams shoot the best against us because we just don't cover it. We play a very old school kind of bully ball type of defense where it's box and one. Don't let them get to the paint. Don't let them shoot mid rangers. If they kill us with threes, they kill us with threes. And that was great last time we had success with the bad boy Pistons. But now this is a 3 and D league. 90% of the NBA players that come into the draft or 90% of players now just are able to shoot because that's what you have to do to be able to compete in this league. It's a new game. We're in 2024 now. I mean, teams are shooting like the Boston Celtics shoot 53s a game. That's insane. I mean, anyone can say that's insane, but they're winning. They're one of the best teams in the league. You look over to the Warriors dynasty, that's Stephen Curry, that's Klay Thompson, the best Splash Brothers of all time. I mean, the best probably two shooting guards of all time, barring Ray Allen or James Harden. I don't care who else you want to put up there. That's not what I'm here to argue. But the point is like we're here to play three pointers, and we don't shoot enough threes, and we don't guard the three well enough to not shoot threes. And that has been a consistent reason we have lost. I would like to say all 14 of our games. We're 9 and 14 right now. So it's really just, I mean, and along with that, I mean, it just is tough to see. Cade Cunningham, only player with 20 points. Jaden Ivey only had 8. Tim Hardaway Jr. had a decent day with 15. Tobias Harris had 16, but those efficiencies aren't good at all. I mean, they're shooting like 40% from the field. Jalen Duren had 6 rebounds and fouled out in the third quarter because he just couldn't get a call against Giannis. And we had like 15 turnovers in the first half alone. I think it was 9 turnovers actually, but you get what I'm saying. We turn the ball over way too much. We don't understand how to play defense if they're shooting threes, and this offense is awful without Cade. So I mean, 1 and 3, there's definitely a lot that we can come back for. The East is very, very weak. I think a 32-33 win team could make the play-in tournament, which is the goal for the Pistons right now. They'd love to make the playoffs, but I'm not gonna get my hopes too high. But the goal is still there, and I think if we can fix some of these defensive rotations and we can fix some of our offensive stints, along with making a trade for a better second option, um, this team could win. I definitely think that there's a world where this team makes the play-in and could make a decent playoff push if we trade for someone. But this roster right now is not getting it done. But that is enough about me ranting about how bad the Pistons are. Let's get into our next segment, and that is going to be the NBA Cup. For anyone who doesn't know how the NBA Cup works or what it is, last season the NBA decided they wanted to run an in-season tournament to make these games in November and December that really don't matter in the grand scheme of things. Like, who really cares? It's a random game in December. You know you're going to be able to watch in February, March. The playoffs aren't even until May and June. I mean, like, why watch the NBA right now? So they decided to make an in-season tournament called the NBA Cup. And this was a great idea for season-long fans. I mean, the NBA tournament's been great. The Pistons went 3-0 in it, and we almost made the playoffs, and that's awesome. For anyone wondering who it was last season, it was Milwaukee, the Knicks, Indiana, Boston on the east side, and the west side was the Lakers, the Phoenix Suns, the Kings, and the Pelicans. And I mean, every game felt like a playoff game. Every team was playing like a playoff team. Like last season, it was so fun to watch, and then this season, it was the exact same thing. I mean, like it was like I wish I could explain it better than I am right now, but it was so fun to watch just teams explode in game sevens. Like last night, we had the Magic versus the Knicks, and the Knicks shot like 65% from three. They wanted to win that game. Teams want to win these games. Like it matters to them, and it is so fun to watch teams actually care about playing games in December. Like another game I want to refer to is the Nuggets versus the Warriors. The Nuggets ended up winning that game, and it was just like, what? Like the Warriors were up double digits with like 5 minutes left to go, and the Nuggets kept fighting and fighting and getting back, and they won. We're not going to talk about the fact that the Warriors have actually blown 5 double-digit leads in the fourth quarter in a row. By the way, it's been really bad to watch that team as well. But I mean, I think this is one of the best decisions the NBA has ever made behind the play-in tournament. It has been so fun to watch. It gives teams who maybe are tanking just a few games to have fun and watch and hope that they win. I mean, it really works for everyone. And speaking of that, and just kind of talking about how fun it's been, I want to talk about the bracket and who I think is going to win this NBA Cup. So let's move in to the 4 games that we are going to get to watch. In the quarterfinal, the first match is going to be the Magic versus the Bucks, and the Bucks should just sweep this game. Like this should be no contest. They're winning because the Magic don't have Pablo. They don't have anyone to guard Brook Lopez or Giannis. Dame is going to be lights out from three. I mean, I don't see a world where they lose this game, if I'm being honest. Like I think the Bucks win like 130 to 110. Um, moving on to the Hawks and the Knicks. They are a lot closer, but I think that the Knicks probably take this game. You have Jalen Brunson, Josh Hart, Mikal Bridges, Karl Anthony Towns. This team is really good. They just haven't meshed too well throughout the season. I mean, they've been decent, don't get me wrong, but like you can definitely tell that the trade is still in effect and that they're still getting used to their new teammates. So maybe the Hawks take advantage of that, but I just don't see them having the firepower besides Trey Young. Maybe Dyson Daniels, the rookie, decides to step up. But besides that, I'm calling like 121 to like 105. Again, I just don't think this is going to be a good game to watch. Luckily, going into our third game on the Western Conference side of things, I think it could be a lot better. You have the Mavericks versus the Thunder, and it really is going to come down to the issues that the Mavericks have been having all season, and those two main issues have been Clay has not shot the ball that well. He had a few good games here and there, but overall his shooting splits aren't great. He's shooting like 36% from three right now, and when you used to be one of the best shooters in the league, you got to be shooting better than that. And Luka has been probably one of the worst defenders in the league. I mean, the amount of blown assignments, blown coverages he's had, especially in close games, and then to come back down the court and just chuck from 35 feet, like Luka's been one of the worst clutch players all year. He puts up good stats. They're still winning games. Don't get me wrong. Like, I'm not calling him a bad player by any means. He's still one of the best players in the league, but he's definitely taken a regression role now that he has more quote unquote role players like Clay. Obviously he has Kyrie Irving there. But outside of that, I mean, he just needs to really step up. So if he can step up and kind of understand that he has to play both sides of the ball, then I think they could make a push against the Thunder. But the Thunder is also just one of the best teams in the league right now. I mean, you have Lou Dort, you have Shea Gilgeous-Alexander. I mean, there's so many good players on this team. You have Chet, obviously. Chet's out right now with an injury. But besides that, like this is one of the deepest teams in the league, man. They have been great. I mean, outside of that, you have Jalen Williams. I can't believe I forgot him. You have Alex Caruso, who's been amazing. Probably a great presence for this team. I haven't been able to watch too many games. That's why I'm kind of fumbling with the names right now. Aaron Wiggins is on this team. You have Isaiah Hartenstein. Um, yeah, this game. I mean, you have Lou Dort. Lou Dort is just awesome. Like this team is great. This team all around is amazing. In the few games I've been able to watch, like all these guys just mesh so well together. There's a reason that they're the number one seed in the Western Conference. I mean, I can't give you guys a good reason why they would lose this game unless, like I said, Luka decides to step it up and this is a very big and Clay shoots the ball well. Moving into our final game of the NBA Cup, we have the Houston Rockets taking on the Golden State Warriors. For anyone who doesn't know, I'm a diehard Warriors fan. I've been watching them for years now. Yes, I'm a bandwagon, whatever. I don't care. I love Stephen Curry. I love this team. I've been following them for years, probably as closely as I follow the Pistons. And so, coming from me, I don't see how they win this game. Right now, they're 12-7, but don't let that record fool you. We have lost the last 5 games straight with having double-digit leads in the fourth quarter, and that feels like impossible to do, but it's for a multitude of reasons. One, Stephen Curry is older now. Like, I don't think he retires next year or anything crazy, but he's not shooting the ball as well as he used to. He's missed a lot of just kind of like layups you expect him to hit. He never gets calls. Like, he's probably the worst superstar in the league when it comes to getting calls and getting to the free throw line. He never gets the calls he needs. Um, but outside of that too, like he's just getting older, and it's really hard for him to keep up and carry this team who doesn't have a really good second option. I mean, Andrew Wiggins has been a really good player this year. Jonathan Kuminga's looked decent. Obviously, you have Draymond Green, the punching machine, who is decent, plays good defense, knows how to run the offense well, but he's hurt right now, and you can tell that he's hurt from last night's game because they just fell apart. And outside of that, they don't really have a lot of what you need to be a title contending team. And when you have Stephen Curry and you have a great like player in him, you have to make that happen. And Steve Curry just doesn't have the players or the rotations to be a good coach right now for Steph Curry. And it's really hard to watch because like we'll have rotations in like you have players like Pods or you have players like Moses Moody who aren't getting minutes or get way too many minutes. Like Pods is awful. I don't know how he's still in the rotation. And Moses Moody is a great player, but he just doesn't get the minutes, so he can't stay consistent. And I mean, when you have issues like that, constantly bashing your team and you don't fix it, it just becomes so much worse. I mean, Kevon Looney's been a great backup center. Trace Jackson Davis. Okay, but he's way too slow and he's in his second year, so he's still developing. Outside of that, you have players like at the four who come in, like Kyle Anderson. I mean, this entire team is just built up of okay role players, but aren't good enough to get the job done, and they're not making any trades about it. So, with all that being said, going on against a team that has Jalen Green, Steven Adams, Fred VanVleet, Dylan Brooks, Amon Thompson, Alfred Sengun, you have Jabari Smith Jr., Tari Eason, I mean, this team is great. Like, this is a really good, deep team, and they have played like that all season. Jalen Green has been an absolute rocket. He either shoots up and hits 50 or has the worst game of his night. But outside of that, this team looks really, really good. Like, Alfred Sengun is probably one of the best centers in the league. Steven Adams, as everyone knows, has been a really good center for years. You have Dylan Brooks, the defensive menace. Fred VanVleet, while he is having a down season when it comes to shooting the ball, is still a veteran point guard who knows how to run the offense. Amon Thompson is probably one of the best role players in the league. I mean, super fun to watch, can run and dunk, plays a lot of good defense. I mean, this guy is just, he's a good player. And I just don't see a world where this team loses to a Warriors team who has struggled all season to just find a good rotation for more than 2 minutes. Now that we have finished talking about the first round matchups for the NBA Cup, I'd like to move into our next segment. I'm not going to give you guys a full prediction of who I think is going to win the NBA Cup. I will say that I think the final winner will probably be the Bucks or the Thunder, but you never know. So I don't want to go too in depth in that because I could talk about this cup for hours. So we're gonna move on to our next segment now, and we will be keeping up with the NBA Cup. So don't worry. Games happen like I think it's next week, like December 10th. So next week's episode will have the updated games and the updated list, and I'll keep you guys interested, keep you guys posted. Moving into our next segment now, it is going to be Hot Streak. And this is just players around the league. I'm not sure if I said it was going to be Pistons only last week, but I decided that I want to just make it every team because there's no real player on the Pistons I can call to right now that are really doing good or like playing insanely well. So the Hot Streak player of the week is going to be Giannis Antetokounmpo. And the reason for this is because he has been absolutely tearing it up. He has looked amazing in the last 10 games. For anyone who doesn't know, this team started off 2-9. In their last, what is it, 8 games? No, in their last 9 games, they are 9-1. And I mean, holy crap, this team is looking really good now. They had a really rough start to the season, but Giannis turned it up, Dame turned it up, and it has been lights out ever since. In his last 5 games, Giannis has put up 41, 37, 32, 42, and 28 points. And that 28 points, while it might seem like it's a little low, that was on 10 for 11 shooting, folks. He hit 90% of his field goals, and those were jump shots. Those weren't even just like going in, running and dunking. He had a ton of free throws. He had 8 free throws as well, but he's looked great. He's been one of the best players in the league. He's probably my MVP if I had to give one. Right now about quarter way through the season, but he's just looked awesome. And if he plays like this the rest of the season, along with Dame, who's starting to find himself in this offense, they can make a deep playoff run. This could definitely be a contending team. That's all I have for that. So now we get to go into our second to last segment of the day, and that's going to be the what did he say? And I mean, guys, this is going to be a controversial take. I need everyone to understand that. Not everyone's going to agree with me. Not everyone's going to like this, but it has to be said. Cade Cunningham is not good enough right now. Can he be the number one option for the Pistons? Yes. Can he be our superstar? Yes. Can he be the player that leads us to a championship one day? I don't know, but I'd like to believe so. But he just doesn't have the killer mindset that you need to see out of your star player. He just doesn't shoot the ball enough. When it comes to important games, he doesn't know how to take over. He's a great point guard. He's a really good point guard. Knows how to get his team involved, knows how to run the offense. But when it comes to final 3 minutes, we need someone just shooting crazy shots, getting to the basket, laying it in. He just doesn't do that. Can he hit clutch shots? Yeah, he's had 2 buzzer beaters this year and a game-winning block. He can be clutch and he can be aggressive, but he doesn't do it enough for what you want to see out of your star player. Let's go to a team like I just talked about, the Bucks. Giannis, 42 points, 41 points, 59 points, 37 points. I don't think Cade has cracked 30 all year. He has triple doubles, awesome. Had good shooting splits, great. But when you need someone to just put up points and just be a bucket getter, he is not that guy right now. And I think that's because he's too worried about his teammates and too worried about getting everyone involved and playing smart. And sometimes playing smart isn't good enough when you're on a team that isn't that good in the league. When you're on a team that's built up of young players and role players and you want to win some games, you just need a guy to go drop 50. You need a guy to just go get to the basket and hit shot after shot, and he just doesn't do that. Um, a part of that is because he is like Stephen Curry in the sense of he just doesn't get calls. Like he can get hacked or hit in the face, or a steal will happen where his arms hit and they just don't call it. He does not get a lot of calls from the refs, but there's nothing you can do about that. The refs are awful. The refs are horrible. They suck. But that doesn't make any difference when it comes to winning and losing games in the sense of when you have 7 to 8 turnovers in a game, or you have a starter who's putting up 0 points, 0 assists, and 0 rebounds, the refs aren't the reason you're losing the game. And Cade Cunningham just needs to realize that sometimes you need to lock in, focus up, and just be the star player. And if he can do that, then I do think that this team could make a serious run into the play in and maybe even get to the playoffs. But if he keeps playing this willy nilly, like I'm only shooting 15 to 20 shots a night, and when we're down by 15 points, I can't take over the game and let us go on a run, then I don't know how far he can take us. But yeah, that's really where I'm at with Cade right now. I love him as a player. I really don't want him traded. I think he can be the best player on the team, but until he gets that killer mentality, like what a lot of the other stars in the league have, like Jalen Brunson, or if you want to look back to one of the older days, like Kobe or Jordan, or just someone who knew that they were the best player, I don't know how far he can take us, unfortunately. Moving in now to our final segment is going to be the Q&A episode. I have 3 questions today, just some questions I pulled up from around the NBA, and that is, are there any dark horses in the NBA Cup? Like any teams, like I told you guys, I think the Bucks or the Thunder are going to win it, but is there any teams I could see coming out of the blue? And the team I'm going to choose are the Warriors. I know I just talked about them a few minutes ago about how I just don't see this team doing anything, but there are some still good role players on this team, and if Curry can just play good for these final 3 games that he's going to have in the NBA Cup, along with players like Andrew Wiggins and Jonathan Kuminga stepping up, maybe you have someone off the bench like Moses Moody or Pods have a few good games, they could 100% make a run and beat any team in this league. But the issue is right now is that the depth when it comes to the bench isn't there. There's too many role players that get minutes that just don't quite play good enough for the minutes that they get. And Stephen Curry's been in an absolutely horrid shooting slump. So if he gets out of that and the role players decide to come in and win some games and actually want to play good, then I could 100% see them making a run and being a dark horse to win the NBA Cup. Our next question is, does the core of Cade, Ivy, and Duran actually have any hopes of winning something meaningful? For anyone who doesn't know, I think our main 3 or our core is Jaden Ivey, Cade Cunningham, and Jalen Duren. Some may want to argue that maybe it's like you can't really argue it's anyone else. It's those 3 guys. Um, and for this question, I'm thinking about it, and I want to say yes, I do, because Jalen Duren has a ton of talent as a center. Jaden Ivey has shown flashes of being a superstar in this league. Maybe not a superstar, but a good second option behind Cade. But with how inconsistent they've been now in their 3rd season in the league, I don't know. I don't know. Cade's in his 4th season now. Ivy's in his 3rd. Um, I think that they could. I think if the progression goes the way we want it to, and Duran actually starts playing a lot better in 48 minutes of each game instead of choosing games to play good and choosing games to just take it off. And if Jaden Ivey gets a lot more consistent with his 3 ball and gets a lot more consistent as a secondary scorer, I do think this could be a core to make a run. But if we saw a trade in the next season or so that involved Ivy and Durant, I wouldn't be surprised. Let's go with what we talked about last episode, where I thought we would trade for Brandon Ingram. If we traded Jaden Ivey, 2 first-round picks, and some role players for Brandon Ingram, I wouldn't be surprised. Moving into our final question of the segment is going to be, who's your favorite player on the Pistons? And my answer to your question is Beef Stew. And for anyone who doesn't know who that is Isaiah Stewart, our backup center. I talked about him a lot last week. I think he's a great player. I love to watch him, and if nothing else, he's just fun to watch. He knows how to go out and get good rebounds. He knows how to shoot the 3 ball if you need him to. He plays great defense. I mean, this guy is what you want out of a quality NBA center, who's a backup. Like, he's not going to be your star player. He could be a starter in the future, but I think keeping him on the bench is really good because then it ignites a fire under the bench guys, what he can do, what he brings. I think he's one of the better players on this team from the bench, and I think that the way that we utilize him right now is really good. He comes in when Duran needs a break, get some defensive stops, maybe score a few points here and there, and then let Duran come back in and handle the rest. I think that's a perfect way to play him. I think that's a great way to play him. And I love this guy. He's amazing to watch. He's fun to watch. One of my favorite players in the league. And yeah, that's my favorite player on the Pistons. And that'll wrap us up. Thank you all so much for listening. Thank you guys for watching. If you watch on YouTube, if you're on Spotify, whatever, wherever you are. Thank you guys so much for listening or watching. And I will see you all next week. Peace.